Hey, everybody. Michael Rossi of Poli-Sci just put up his third part. He calls it part one, but it's a third upload of Vladimir Putin talking at the Valdai discussion club. And I figured I'd get on here and do my usual, read it in Midwestern American English. If you don't want to hear my voice, the link to his translation without an overdub is in the description. Check it out. But for those of you that just like to listen in an American dialect, you can understand, go for a walk, clean the house, whatever. That's what I'm here for. All right? So let's knock this out. Fyodor Lukyanov. Let us begin. Ivan Sofchuk.
Иван Сфранчук.
Ivan Sofchuk, MGIMO University. You said that we have a very important decade ahead in the development of the world and our country. But I'm left with the impression that a certain door exists that has led us to this decade. I have a question about this door. Nuclear rhetoric has intensified greatly as of late. Ukraine has moved from irresponsible statements to the practical preparation of a nuclear provocation. Representatives of the United States and the United Kingdom are making statements with suggestions of the possible use of nuclear weapons. Biden, let's say, speaks about nuclear Armageddon, and straight away there are comments in the U.S. that there is nothing to fear. At the same time, the United States is hurrying to deploy modernized tactical nuclear bombs in Europe. It looks like they are rattling the saber while refusing to acknowledge the lessons of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Mr. President, could you please comment? Is it true that the world is on the verge of the possible use of nuclear weapons? How will Russia act in these circumstances, given that it is a responsible nuclear state? Thank you. Putin, look, as long as nuclear weapons exist, there will always be a danger that they could be used. This is the first thing. Second, the goal of the current fuss around such threats and the potential use of nuclear weapons is very primitive. And I would probably be not mistaken when I explain what this is about. I already said that the dictate of the Western countries and their attempts to apply pressure on all the participants of international communication, including countries that are neutral or friendly to us, are achieving nothing, and they are looking for additional arguments to convince our friends or neutral states that they all need to confront Russia collectively. Nuclear provocation and the inflaming of the possibility that Russia might theoretically use nuclear weapons are being used. To reach these goals, to influence our friends, our allies, and neutral states by telling them, look at whom you support. Russia is such a scary country. Do not support it. Do not cooperate with it. Do not trade with it. This is, in fact, a primitive goal. What is really happening in reality? After all, we've never said anything proactively about Russia potentially using nuclear weapons. All we did was hint in response to statements made by Western leaders. Miss Liz Truss, the recent Prime Minister of Great Britain, directly stated in a conversation with a media representative that Great Britain is a nuclear power, and the Prime Minister's duty is to possibly use nuclear weapons, and she will do so. It's not a quote, but close to the original wording. I'm ready to do that. No one responded to that in any way. Suppose she just spaced out and let it slip. How can you say such things publicly? She did, though. They should have set her straight, or Washington could have publicly stated that it has nothing to do with this. We have no idea what she's talking about, they could have said. There was no need to hurt anyone's feelings. All they had to do was disassociate themselves from what she said. But everyone was silent. What are we supposed to think? We thought it was a coordinated position and that we were being blackmailed. What are we supposed to do? Remain silent and pretend that we did not hear anything, or what? There are several other statements about this matter. Kiev never stops talking about its desire to possess nuclear weapons. This is the first part of the Ballet de la Merleson. So they keep talking about our outrageous actions at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. What is so outrageous about it? That is how they word it sometimes. They are constantly insinuating that we are firing missiles at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Have they lost it altogether, or what? We are in control of this nuclear power plant. Our troops are stationed there. A couple months ago, I talked with a Western leader. I asked him what we should do. He told me we needed to remove heavy weapons from the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. I agreed and said that we had already done so, and there were no heavy weapons there. You did? Well, then remove the other ones. It's nonsense, you see. You're laughing. It is funny, but it is almost verbatim what he said. I told him, listen, you wanted the IAEA representatives to be present at the station? We agreed, and they are there. They live right on the grounds of the nuclear power plant. They see with their own eyes what's going on, who is shooting, and where the shells are coming from. After all, no one is saying that Ukrainian troops are shelling the nuclear power plant. And they are stirring things up and blaming Russia for this. That is delusional. It looks like a delusion, but it is actually happening. I think I've already publicly said that the Kiev regime's sabotage groups had destroyed 3 or 4 high-voltage overhead power lines outside the Kursk nuclear power plant. Unfortunately, the FSB was unable to catch them. Hopefully it will someday. They escaped. But they were the ones who did it. We let all Western partners know about the incident. Silent was all we got in response, as if nothing happened. That is, they are seeking to stage some kind of a nuclear incident in order to lay responsibility on Russia and stir up a new round of their battle against Russia, sanctions against Russia, and so on. I just do not see any other point in doing so. This is what is happening. Now they have invented something new. It was no accident that we went public about the information from our security services that they are preparing an incident with the so-called dirty bomb. Such a bomb is easy to make. And we even know its approximate location. Slightly modified remains of nuclear fuel. Ukraine has the technologies needed to do that, and are loaded into the Toshka-U. It blows up, and they say that it was Russia that made a nuclear strike. But we have no need to do so. There is no sense in it for us, neither politically nor militarily. But they are going to do it nevertheless. It was me who instructed Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu to call all his colleagues and inform them about it. We cannot disregard such things. Now they say that the IAEA wants to come and inspect Ukraine's nuclear facilities. We encourage this. And we believe that it should be done as soon as possible, and the inspection should be at all such facilities because we know that the Kiev authorities are doing their best to cover their tracks. They are working on it. Finally, about using or not using nuclear weapons, the only country in the world which has used nuclear weapons against a non-nuclear state was the United States of America. They used it twice against Japan. What was the goal? There was no military need for it at all. What was the military practicability to use nuclear weapons against Hiroshima and Nagasaki, against civilians? Had there been a threat to the U.S. territorial integrity? Of course not. It was not practical from the military point of view either, because Japan's war machine had already been destroyed. It was not able to resist. So what was the point in dealing the final blow with nuclear weapons? By the way, Japanese textbooks usually say that it was the Allies that struck a nuclear blow at Japan. They have such a firm grip over Japan that the Japanese cannot even write the truth in their school textbooks, even though they commemorate this tragedy every year. Good for the Americans. We should all probably follow their example. Great job. But such things happen. This is life. So the U.S. is the only country that has done it because it believed it was in its interests. As for Russia, we have the military doctrine, and they should read it. One of its articles explains the cases when, why, in relation to what, and how Russia considers it possible to use weapons of mass destruction in the form of nuclear weapons to protect its sovereignty, territorial integrity, and to ensure the safety of the Russian people. The Kanyev, tomorrow will be 60 years since the culmination of the Caribbean crisis, the day when it was decided to retreat. Can you imagine yourself in the role of one of the leaders, Khrushchev, to be more precise? Can we get to that point? Certainly not. It won't come to this? No, I cannot imagine myself in the role of Khrushchev. No way. All right. And what about the role of a leader who has to make a decision on this issue? We are ready to settle any issues. We are not refusing. Last December, we offered the United States to continue the dialogue on strategic stability, but received no response. It was in December of last year. Silence. If they want to, we're ready. Let's do it. If they do not want to, we are developing our own modern technology and delivery vehicles, including supersonic arms. In principle, we do not need anything. We feel self-sufficient. Yes, of course. At one time, they will catch up with us in supersonic weapons as well. This is obvious. They have a high-tech country. And it is only a matter of time, but they have not yet caught up with us. We have everything, and we are developing this technology. If someone wants to conduct dialogue with us about this, we are ready. Go ahead. Irrigation Marashi, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. You have answered a direct point that I raised earlier, but if I could expand upon what I'd asked. Escalating and accelerating crises continue to further reveal the precarious position we are in and what our system currently is driving us towards. So unequal exchange continues, as you pointed out. Inequitous distribution, especially of human capacity, capability, and competence, render future prospects of reconciliation and reform inside an unfair yet hegemonic system extremely bleak. Sanctions, fear of reprisals have rendered monetary sovereignty meaningless, especially with the weaponization of the payment system. In our contemporary conjuncture, what could then constitute a more democratic and workable alternative to the current international system of payments and settlements?
This is one of the key issues of the current development and the future of not only the financial system, but also the world order. You've just hit the bullseye. After World War II, the United States created the Bretton Woods system and made it several times stronger over the years. They worked in different areas and established international institutions that are under their control in both finance and international trade, but they are obviously breaking down. As I've already said, the United States made a huge mistake by using the dollar as a weapon in fighting for its political interests. This undermines trust in the dollar and other reserve currencies. The loss of trust is big. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Now everyone is thinking whether it makes sense to keep foreign currency reserves in dollars. It is not so simple to part with the dollar because the Americans have created a very powerful system that keeps these reserves and actually does not let them out. It is very difficult to get out, but everyone has started pondering over the future. I've already described this and can only repeat what we think about the future of the international financial system. First, this is a common understanding, but still, all countries must be guaranteed sovereign development, and any country's choice must be respected. This is also important, even in relation to the financial system. It should be independent, depoliticized, and, of course, it should rely on the financial systems of the world's leading countries. And if this system is created, this will not be easy, it is a difficult process, but it is possible. The international institutions, they will need to be either reformed or recreated. Helping those countries that need support will work more effectively. First of all, this new financial system should pave the way for education and technology transfer. If we put this together, collect the palette of opportunities that need to be taken, then this economic model and financial system will meet the interests of the majority, and not only the interests of this golden billion which we talked about. As a forerunner of this system, we certainly need to expand payments in national currencies. Given that the U.S. financial authorities are weaponizing the dollar and creating problems with payments not only for us, but also for our partners and other countries, the striving for independence will inevitably promote settlements in national currencies. For example, with India, we are now making 53% of mutual payments for exports in national currencies and about 27% for imports. Similar arrangements with other countries are being increasingly used. For example, with China, payments in yuan and rubles are expanding fast, and with other countries too. I will not list them all now. So, as for our own financial system, I believe the main way to proceed is to create a supranational global monetary system that would be depoliticized and based on national currency systems. This system would certainly ensure payments and transactions. It's possible. In the end, one way or another, we have taken the first steps towards payments in national currencies, and then steps at the regional level. I believe this process will continue. Colleagues, please, when you ask questions, introduce yourself. Marsagan, Mashreji, South Africa, so that everyone understands.
Моей страны, моего региона.
Alexander Iskandarian.
Алек Искандерян.
Mr. President, I am from Armenia, and my question concerns my country and my region. The discussion of a treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan has become more intense lately, and this is mainly due to the fact that there are two competing drafts, a Russian draft proposed by the Russian intermediary and a Western draft. This situation is quite risky, in addition to the other risks in the region. There are certain tensions. What does Russia think, and how does Russia plan to respond to this situation and act in the future in this context? Thank you. You see, I do not even know if this has been discussed publicly before. Maybe yes, maybe no. But even if it has not been discussed, I do not see any secrets here. For many years, we have continued the dialogue with Armenia, proposing to settle the Nagorno-Karabakh matter. Armenia de facto controlled 7 areas in Azerbaijan, and we suggested moving towards normalizing relations. There are 2 areas, Kalbajar and another one further to the south with corridors, large areas. At a certain point, we could make an agreement. With Azerbaijan, and it would give away 5 areas. They are not necessary. There is no use for them. They just sit empty, as people have essentially been expelled from those territories. Why keep them? There is no point. While for connections with Nagorno-Karabakh, 2 areas, huge areas by the way, should be enough. We believe it would be fair to bring back the refugees and so on. It would be a good step towards normalizing the situation in the region. In general, Armenian leadership decided to pursue its own course, which, as we know, has resulted in the situation we have today. Now, as concerns the settlement and the peace treaty, our position is that, of course, there must be a peace treaty. We support a peaceful settlement, delimitation of the border, and a full resolution to the border issue. The question is, which option should be chosen? It's up to Armenia, the Armenian people, and Armenian leadership. At any rate, whatever they choose, we will support it as long as it brings peace. But we have no intention of imposing anything or dictating anything to Armenia. If the Armenian people or the Armenian leaders believe they should decide on a specific version of the peace treaty, as far as I understand, the Washington draft provides for recognizing Azerbaijan's sovereignty over Nagorno-Karabakh. If Armenia chooses that, so be it. We will support any choice the Armenian people make. If the Armenian people and leaders believe that Nagorno-Karabakh has certain peculiarities that should be considered in a future peace treaty, this is also possible. But without a doubt, this is a matter of agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The agreements must be acceptable to the other party as well, to Azerbaijan. It is a very difficult question, no less. But Armenia is our strategic partner and ally, and of course we will, to a great extent, bearing in mind Azerbaijan's interests, be guided by what Armenia itself is proposing. 2 years ago, you spoke highly about President Erdogan at the Valdai Club meeting, saying that he did not go back on his words, but did what he said he would do. Many things have happened over the past 2 years. Has your opinion of him changed? Putin, no. He is a competent and strong leader who is guided above all, and possibly exclusively by the interests of Turkey, its people, and its economy. This largely explains his position on energy issues and, for example, on the construction of Turk Stream. We have proposed building a gas hub in Turkey for European consumers. Turkey has supported this idea, of course, first of all, based on its own interests. We have many common interests in tourism, the construction sector, and agriculture. There are many areas where we have common interests. President Erdogan never lets anyone get a free ride or acts in the interests of third countries. He upholds above all the interests of Turkey. Including in dialogue with us. In this sense, Turkey as a whole, and personally President Erdogan, are not easy partners. Many of our decisions are born amid long and difficult debates and negotiations. But there's a desire on both sides to reach agreements, and we usually do it. In this sense, President Erdogan is a consistent and reliable partner. This is probably his most important trait, that he is a reliable partner. Has he ever tried to get a free ride? For example, from you? Putin, you see, I have already noted that the president of Turkey is not an easy partner, that he always upholds his interests, not his personal interests, but the interests of his country. But it cannot be said that he has ever tried to get a free ride. He simply works towards a solution that is the best one, in the opinion of his government. We work towards solutions that will be the best for us. As I said, we usually find a solution even on very delicate issues, such as Syria, security issues in the economy, including infrastructure. So far, we've managed to do it. I will repeat that this is extremely important. We know that if we have covered a difficult path, and it is difficult to come to an agreement, but we reached it nevertheless. We can rest assured that it will be implemented. The most important thing is reliability and stability in our relations. Dejan Talika.
Thank you. My name is Dayan Jatalatka, former ambassador of Sri Lanka to the Russian Federation. Mr. President, it is said that Russia is now facing a proxy war waged by the collective West and NATO. If so, it is probably the most serious threat faced by Russia since 1941. At that time, during the Great Patriotic War, the Soviet leader who was a communist, reached out to the Orthodox Church and to Russian nationalism in order to form a broad front to defend Russia. Would you say that in a similar spirit, you would revisit the Soviet-Russian past, the communist heritage from 1917, to extract any useful elements of it, including the history of the Red Army? And would you think it worthwhile to reach out to the communist elements, however few they are in Russia, to join in a broad patriotic front? Thank you.
As for my position, I believe we should use our entire historical heritage. I don't think we should reject anything. The positive aspects, of the Tsarist Empire in Russian history, nor the positive facts in the history of the Soviet Union, which had many positive traits. There were also negatives in both cases. They were overcome in different ways and had different consequences. As for relations with the left part of our political spectrum and other political trends, the peculiarity of today's Russia is the practically complete consensus on the countering of external threats. Yes, there are some people with a completely pro-Western orientation, and they live abroad for the most part. They are mentally abroad. Their families are abroad, and their children study abroad. Yes, we have a few of them. But they've always been here, and they always exist in all countries. There is nothing unusual about this. Overall, consolidation is very high regardless of the political slant or views on ways to develop Russia as such. People with communist convictions believe we need to nationalize everything again. They want everything governmentalized, etc. It is hard to say how effective this would be. We do not reject this in some things, in some places, in some specific historical situations. And we even have a law on nationalization. That said, we are not doing this. There is no need for this whatsoever. We believe in the need to use the most effective tools for national development, market principles, but under the control, of course, of the state, government power, under the control of the people. We should use these advantages to achieve our main goals. Improve the nation's well-being, counter poverty, step up our efforts, and achieve better results in housing construction, education, healthcare, and the resolution of other issues that are vital to people. So in our work, we treat people who have left-wing views with respect, including those with communist convictions. As you said, and with good reason, the Soviet Union lived for a long time under the control and guidance of the Communist Party. At this point, I do not wish to go into detail and explain what was good and what was bad. You mentioned religious organizations, but all of them, we have 4 traditional religions, are exclusively patriotic. As for the Russian Orthodox Church, it has been with its congregation, with its people throughout its entire history. Same is true today. The key difference in today's relations with our traditional religions is probably that we really, not just outwardly, abstain from interfering in the life of religious organizations. Maybe they are in this country in a much freer position than in many states that consider themselves democratic. We never exert any pressure on them. We believe we are in debt to them because during the Soviet years, their property was squandered or taken abroad and sold and so on. In other words, a lot of damage was inflicted on religious organizations, including the Russian Orthodox Church. We try to support all our religions, but we do not interfere in their work. And probably what is happening now is truly unique. There is a common patriotic mood related to the country's development within our state and the maintenance of our interests outside. But given these factors, we give them complete freedom of activity. I think this relationship, this situation, is producing the desired results. Mr. Kubat Rakimov. I am Kubat Rakimov from the Kyrgyz Republic. Mr. President, Russia is indeed the leader of a new anti-colonial movement. Russia's commitment to traditional conservative values also receives global support. During the discussions here at the Valdai Club, we have seen very high demand for social justice and for equitable organization of social relations. How do you see this, and how can we help you as Valdai Club experts? This is my first question. My second question is, what do you think of the possibility of relocating the capital of the Russian Federation to the center of the country? That is, to the center of the Eurasian continent, so that it can be closer to countries in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Regarding a more equitable social system in Russia, our constitution states expressly that Russia is a social welfare state. And of course, everything we do, all our national development goals are basically to accomplish social objectives. We could discuss these issues for hours, and even all day today would not be enough. Everything we do is designed to accomplish this, to accomplish the social objectives now facing the Russian state. We have many goals like this, including many unsolved problems. I've already discussed this, but again, we need to develop the economy to address healthcare, education, and technological development issues on this basis and to restructure our economy. Structural changes are the most important thing. The labor market will change, and in this connection, we should, of course, think about those people whose jobs will be eliminated. We should provide them with new competences and retrain them, etc. Regarding the Valdai Club, it brings together experts from various walks of life. Of course, we would be grateful if these experts would update us on key development trends. We would listen to your opinions while making the plans I just listed. We can and must build upon our current policies while understanding future developments. With respect to moving the capital, yes, we've talked about this. The Russian capital has been moved several times in the history of the Russian state. Historically and mentally, the center of Russia is always associated with Moscow, and in my opinion, there is no need. There are problems in the capital's development as a metropolitan area, but I must say that with Mayor Sobyan's team, these problems are addressed and resolved much better than in many other countries and metropolitan areas. There was a period when issues of transport, social infrastructure development, and other areas were serious, and they still are to a certain extent. But still, in recent years, Mayor Sobyanin has done a great deal to curb these challenges and create conditions for Muscovites, people who relocate for work, and tourists to feel comfortable. A lot has been done for the city's development in the past few years. There is indeed a problem of excessive centralization of all federal organizations in Moscow. For example, I support the approach certain other countries take specifically to decentralize authority and competence to other Russian regions. For example, we are building a judicial center in St. Petersburg. The Constitutional Court is already based there. And there are specific plans concerning the Supreme Court. No haste is necessary. This work should be done gradually. Creating favorable conditions for the judicial community to work in St. Petersburg. And we will do it with no rush. Some major companies that, say, mainly operate in Siberia but have head offices in Moscow could move their headquarters to Siberia. And it is actually happening. Rashidro, for example, is establishing a base in Siberia, in Krasnoyarsk, building a head office there. Certain federal government bodies could be distributed across the territory of the Russian Federation. It would be beneficial for the governance system itself and the regions where these bodies would be based. Based indeed, Mr. Putin. All right. So, I will give a brief, very brief commentary because I need to go to sleep and wake up and go to my real job in the morning. Thank you for taking your time and translating this historic event, learning. Well, I didn't translate it. Michael Rossi, Poli-Sci, he translated it. He's a fantastic guy. I found him online. I feel like he does a really fair job. So major props to you, Professor Rossi. I hope I'm saying your name right. You do great work. But just a few quick thoughts. It's hard to read that and take notes. It's impossible. So I just took some mental notes. I don't know if we have anyone in our entire country that could field questions from all over the world like that. I know I got some of those country names wrong. I'm an American, you know, I'm trying. I'm trying to just get this out for other people to see because they don't want you to see it. I mean, if we lived in a rational country, it'd be like 7 p.m., NBC News, like, you know, and you'd have Morgan Freeman read it instead of some hillbilly school teacher from the middle of nowhere. But that ain't the world we live in. And even if we did, I feel like the first person that came to mind that probably does know all those geopolitics in our country, they're all crazy. Like, I'll just say it, they're evil. Like Hillary Clinton could field all those questions, but she doesn't have the interests of the American people at heart. She's playing like Risk in her brain or something with nukes. You know, Putin seems to genuinely have the Russian people at heart. and he's brilliant. You know, I mean, imagine Joe Biden trying to field all those questions, or Donald Trump. He couldn't do it either. I think Donald has a little bit more of a heart for the average American than, I mean, I always said if Joe Biden won, it'd just be the CIA running the country. So that's what's going on. But so those are my 2 points. Another one I wanted to bring up was at the end where he talked about well, two things came to mind. One, he said, you know, I believe in market forces, but they should never take over the government. Well, that's exactly what's happened in America. Same in China. They figured that out from the Soviet Union. We need a market. We need something to produce your video games and your Nikes and your, you know, whatever. But it can't take over the thing that like feeds and clothes and houses and runs the country, the means of production. Okay. So you can have 49% market, but you got to have 51%. The government, the state, the democratic state is running it. If you just let private business do it all, they just end up in monopolies. And it's like they always act like the private company can do it more efficiently. I think it can. I think Putin knows too. But if there's no like real political power to check them, they'll just form a monopoly. That's what they do. We've known this for 100 years. And we went through 50 years of neoliberalism. And I mean, watch Michael Hudson. He'll teach you. J is for junk economics. They buried all the real economists like underneath the economics school. You know, evidently you go to get a degree in economics. You never read Adam Smith. You never read David Ricardo. You never read Karl Marx. You never read Thorstein Veblen. So no one knows what's going on. It's just, you know, buy the hot new crypto. There's no high-speed rail, like moving things around the country. And then to act like Putin, like Obama gave some speech the other day about how Putin's just an abject authoritarian. Well, he said at the end, like, I respect and look up to countries that are able to decentralize their infrastructure in their capital city. So that doesn't make sense. I mean, if you actually listen to what the man says, even if you disagree with him, it's pretty clear that he's brilliant. And you should know what he says. You know, if you are living in a country with a bunch of nukes pointed at another country with a bunch of, but they don't want you to know anything. They just want you to think he's Saddam Hussein. Well, okay. I'm doing my part to try to educate, you know, the 1,000 Americans that'll watch this video. And I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up and record my audiobook like the good Lord told me to in the morning. And I'm going to go teach about 100 kids and try to give them the critical thinking skills necessary to keep the great American people from being passive and letting their insane deep state government run them off a cliff. So I love y'all. I hope you'll like and subscribe. If you want to support me, this is the main way to do it. I like these guys because they let Patrick Lancaster keep his support. The membership's the coolest way because I'm able to know how much money I'll make every month, which is nice. But if you can't do it, you can't do it. And I'll put one other one up for Mr. Michael because he is just a fantastic guy. I love that he's putting that up there. Coming up, I will find it real quick for you, Michael. Put it up for you. There it is. So this is Michael. He's where all the goodies come from. You can check him out here. And these are both in the description as well. So I love y'all. Keep reading, keep learning, keep your mind open. And hopefully we can all avoid nuclear war by not sticking our heads in the sand like idiot ostriches. So I love you. Good night and God bless.